Hello everyone, and welcome back to this retrospective series on the legions and their Primarchs. I am the Darklight Emissary, here to guide you on a brief overview on each legion and their Primarch, and this episode is on the 20th Legion, the Alpha Legion, and their Primarch, Alpharius Omegon, the Twins. Now, this legion, just their wiki article is a wild ride. If you go look up the 40k wiki and look at their overview there. This legion is, by design, contradictory, and what the truth is, anyone knows. Their information is almost as worthless as anything you read about the two missing legions, because it's obfuscated on purpose. But that being said, that goes to their nature and kind of explains a bit about the legion itself. This legion is much like the Raven Guard we just spoke about, except even more so are they into the stealth and espionage aspects of Warcraft. They are the types who will prodigiously use regular human agents as well as Astartes in very covert actions. You often won't know that you are the target of an Alpha Legion plot until an Alpha Legion Marine shoots you in the face. And that'll be about the only time you get to know that you are part of the targeting of an Alpha Legion plot. For the first century of the Great Crusade, this legion basically wasn't even known to exist. They were a very hidden legion. There was rumors spread throughout the Great Crusade of a ghost legion of Space Marines showing up with no heraldry in the middle of war zones, no iconography indicating who they were, but they would often have codes on them from the Emperor himself, or from Malcador, or from, some very high office in the Imperium, telling them to let them through and, to have no questions asked, that they have ultimate authority. And so for the many decades of the first half of the Great Crusade, there was just these weird sightings of this legion, this ghost legion, and it's not 100% that it was the Alpha Legion, but it's a very high likelihood it was. And if we are to take the Alpharius Primarch novel as a main source to trust from Alpharius's mouth himself, Alpharius was the first Primarch to have been found by the Emperor on Terra itself. He actually didn't ever leave. His capsule crash landed on Terra. And so the Emperor found him, of course, first because he was right there. And Alpharius was given to Malcador, the Sigillite, for further training and guidance. And I say that this makes sense because Malcador is also a very sneaky, shadowed hand of the Emperor. Malcador is known for his Psyker abilities, known for being basically second only to Magnus and the Emperor for power there, but he is also known for his secret ways, and it's possible that this Ghost Legion was actually some of his Knights Errant, which were Space Marines in gray armor taken from many of the Legions, traitor and loyalist, and sent on missions for the Sigillite. Some of these Marines, some of these Knights Errant Marines with psychic potential, were actually the Proto-Grey Knights, some of the leaders of them eventually. So, and the Grey Knights in 40k era are probably the most secretive of all the chapters to exist in the 40k era as well. So, again, this all kind of tracks. This is the best through line I can see through all of it. And if you take the book of Alpharius as he has no reason to lie to the audience in that book, then you can take it, to mean a lot. But of course, there's going to be people out there who doubt anything penned by, a Primarch who makes Zench look twice at what, plots he's weaving. So, that all being said, I digress. But it's just interesting to note that there was reports of this Ghost Legion, and they were often just around, but not really announcing themselves. And so During the events of what's known as the Rangdan Xenocides, that was the first official time when Alpharius revealed his legion to a brother Primarch, and that was to the First Legion, the Dark Angels and Lionel Johnson, who is currently leading the war against the Rangdan. And we don't really know too much about that conflict. Some of the most we get is from this part of Alpharius's novel, but Alpharius had the unique ability to make the perceptions of those who look at him what he wanted them to be. So unlike Corax, who could just pass out of all the knowledge that he was even in the room with you, Alpharius would make you think he was someone else in the room. So he can make you think he was just a larger human man. He could make you think he was just a space marine. And that's what he did with Lionel Johnson. He made the Lion perceive him as just a space marine. And he had all of his troops arrive on the Dark Angel ship in pristine battle armor, insinuating that this legion was just freshly activated and hadn't been active for possibly over a century, with Alpharius having guided them that entire time. And it's not known for sure if the Lion truly didn't know this subterfuge or not, but it's not given. It's left up to us as the audience to decide that. And so that was the first time the Alpha Legion officially showed up to anyone. And then from then on, they continued often how they did. They would range ahead of great Crusade expeditionary fleets and dismantle governments and cause civil war and weaken targets for future expeditionary fleets to come upon and have an easy compliance. However, this was seen as a waste of resources sometimes by some of the Primarchs. I think possibly, though, it was a more emotional response, like, you stole our glory in this battle. You made it too easy for us. But they coached it as more like, you're wasting resources instead of just taking things over. You could have had this done a week ago. But I have a feeling it was a bit more petty than that, because a lot of the Primarchs behaved like petty brothers, and a big family, and, fighting over the glory of it. That was a lot of it. And Alpharius didn't seem to care much for glory or power. He was simply doing what he knew his craft to be, both innately and what he was taught I believe, at the feet of Malcador, and people like Valdur of the Custodes also knew Alpharius. In fact, it's insinuated that Alpharius is the one who inspired the Custodes to adopt what are known as the Blood Games, where the Custodes would try to, a Custodes would be assigned to try to find a way to get to the Emperor and kill him. Alpharius started to do that first, to try to wall up weaknesses in the defenses of the Emperor, and Valor actually thwarted Alpharius from attacking the Emperor in one of those cases, and that's how they kind of met each other. So that's just an interesting note there. And so there's some shared history there. Now, Omegon is a completely different situation. Alpharius heard in the Rangdan sector during those Xenocides that of a Primarch that matched his twin brother's description, and eventually finds him on a world overrun by what are known as the Sloth, which are a horrifying alien species. You should go look them up if you want to learn more about them. And Alpharius is able to reunite with his other half. It's generally understood that Alpharius and Omegon share the same soul, but were split into two bodies. And whether or not the Emperor meant for that to happen is not known. It is pretty well thought that the Emperor knows about them being twins, though. However, only the Emperor knows, and only some within the Alpha Legion even know that. It's a very well kept secret that eventually there are two halves of the same Primarch running this legion. Now, Omegon's story is more amorphous. He claims in the Alpharius Primarch novel that he woke up on a world that was seemingly mostly abandoned, and that a raiding ship crashed and he took it over, killed the people aboard, and somehow there was a suit of armor decorated in hydras that was perfect for his size as a, Space Marine size. Because the thing about these Primarchs is they are not quite as big as the other ones. They kind of look like Space Marines size, but they still have a Primarch's intellect and reflexes and physicality, things like that are above a Space Marine. But anyway, that's where things kind of get a little bit weird with Omegon, and it just basically glosses over their conversation that they have for a while, and then Omegon is sent to introduce himself to Horus and attack his ship in a fabricated assault on the Vengeful Spirit. And so Omegon breaks into the throne room of Horus and killing a couple bodyguards, and Horus realizes he's a Primarch, and he introduces himself to Horus as Alpharius, which the novel of the Primarch Alpharius novel ends with, "This is a lie." Because it was Omegon, not Alpharius, that introduced himself and his legion to Horus. But Horus didn't know that at the time. And so for much of the Great Crusade and beyond, the Alpha Legion still stayed in the shadows. They became more known to their brothers, their brother legions. Some of them, of course, didn't like their tactics. Chief amongst those, Rogal Dorn, the Imperial Fists. They almost came to blows at one point, and the Emperor had to stand in and tell them to stand down from each other. And this is where things get a little bit interesting, because Rogal Dorn simply didn't like the tactics of the Alpha Legion, but it is gone on to show that Rogal Dorn understands the tactics perfectly. He just doesn't want to employ them because he believes they are beneath him and beneath the honorability of their station as superhuman warriors, sons of the Emperor, some kind of concept and principality of loyalty and honor and prestige. I don't know. It's a little bit odd to me because the Emperor and Malcador clearly show themselves capable of subterfuge and secrecy, and Dorn knows this. But Dorn is Dorn, as we've previously spoke about in his. So during the rest of the Great Crusade, the Alpha Legion goes on their own and does their stuff. Alpharius claims in his novel that he helped to find other Primarchs and send word ahead. And again, trusting that is true, it's possible that the Emperor would have had him being on the lookout, sending his forces, far and wide as scouts, without being seen or heard. And we get to a point for the Alpha Legion where the Alpha Legion seems to have stumbled upon chaos at some point, or Alpharius and Omegon were the Primarchs told about chaos by the Emperor, because Malcador does say one of the Primarchs was told about that threat. And in the main book for the Alpha Legion called Legion, the Alpha Legionnaires there do seem to know about chaos, and that world has it infecting the world, and they are invited by an alien cabal to a meeting, and they send a representative named John Grammaticus, who's a perpetual, and John is able to see that each of the Alpha Legion Marines are basically all surgically altered to look just like the Primarchs. Every single Alpha Legion Marine, if we're going to talk about the Legion for a minute, does look like the Primarch almost exactly, because they pretty much all undergo a process to look like the Primarchs. And if you ask a Alpha Legion Marine who they are, they will say, "I am Alpharius," or "I am one of many." Or they've even answered calls like, "We are the Harrowing," "We are the Spectre in the Night," "We are Batman," for all we know. Like they never answer with the truth. That's a hallmark of this Legion. But John Grammaticus is a very interesting character and has a very sharp mind, and he is brought into a prepping area with a bunch of Alpha Legion Marines preparing to assault and target, and he realizes two of the Alpha Legionnaires are completely identical, and he realizes these are the Primarchs of the Legion. And so he invites them to meet the Cabal, and the Cabal tells the Alpha Legion Primarchs that they have a chance to defeat Chaos forever by allowing Horus to win the coming conflict. You know, they tell them about Horus betraying the Emperor, and that if they side with Horus, they can defeat the threat of Chaos forever in the world, in the universe, in the galaxy. And the Primarchs are taken aback by this, and they decide to take that path, to side with Horus to defeat Chaos forever. If they side with the Emperor, then the Emperor will survive, will defeat Horus, but the Empire will decay for the next 10,000 years. It's not known whether or not the Cabal knew for sure that their vision may have been wrong or reversed or tricked by Tzeentch or Chaos in general. But ironically, the Alpha Legion choosing the side with Horus ended up causing the future that they were trying to prevent. So it's not really known exactly who threw a wrench in that whole plan, whether it was the Cabal itself or some other actor. It's important to note here that Eldrad Uthran of the Oathway craft world of Eldar was involved in the Cabal for a time, and later on in the Heresy he starts hunting down and killing those members, so maybe Eldrad thought they were possibly to blame for that. It's a little bit unknown still. Eldrad also spoke with Fulgrim and tried to save him from his path, but that didn't work either. Just something a little bit of note here, that the Eldar were at least partially trying to prevent what was going to happen. Eldrad's a very powerful character. Perhaps if I do a brief overview of the craft world Eldar and each of those craft worlds, I can talk more about him. Now, the rest of the Heresy, the Alpha Legion continues on doing their subterfuge tactics and things like that, but against loyalist positions and helping Horus get to Terra. However, it's speculated that Alpharius and Omegon had a split a bit on loyalties. Omegon being more for Horus, and Alpharius maybe having doubts. And this kind of crested into a plot by Alpharius to attack the defenses of the Sol system. And he sent himself, brainwashed to think he was just a regular Space Marine, into the Sol system and started doing sabotage against the Imperium there, right in the Imperial Palace, with some other Alpha Legionnaires sent in as well. Dorn is able to uncover this plot a bit, kills a lot of the infiltrators. Alpharius escapes, but now Rogal Dorn is onto them. And here's where Alpharius makes his vital mistake. Alpharius sees Dorn as too honest. So honest that he can't be trusted, which is ironic, because Alpharius also then misjudges Dorn's ability to understand his own tactics. And Dorn uses that against him here, because eventually Dorn leads Alpharius into a trap, shows up, they get in a fight, and Alpharius gets executed personally by Rogal Dorn. Dorn had the ability to not only see through Alpha Legion plots and dislike it, but he also could see when Space Marines in the Alpha Legion were pretending to be Alpharius versus the real thing. That's another major hallmark of this Legion. The Alpha Legion is known for them putting on roles for each other. So like Alpharius will pretend to be a regular Space Marine while a regular Space Marine pretends to be him. They do all that kind of weird subterfuge stuff. They're actually at the top of my list for one of the Space Marine Legions I would choose to be a part of, though, because no individual Space Marine is considered just an expendable line soldier. They all get, for the recruiting process, the Alpha Legion would force initiates to train together and go through the trials together. And if a single one of those members failed the trial, they would all fail the trial, which is just an interesting note to point out. Everything about this Legion is sharing the work, share each other's positions even, like fulfill a role, secretly, that sort of thing. They used a ton of regular human agents that they would recruit and send throughout for scouting and spying and subterfuge purposes, more so than any other Legion did. Most Legions saw regular humans as nothing more than, at best, serfs, to arm them and clean their gear and things like that, and at worst slaves and, beneath them. The Alpha Legion probably saw regular humans as some of the best candidates for some of their work, which I find interesting. And so the Alpha Legion, after losing Alpharius Omegon, senses this, and he takes sole command of the Legion. And they continue to be involved in the heresy for a time. However, right before Horus and the rest of the traitors go to the Siege of Terra, Omegon shows up with a delegation of Alpha Legion soldiers, and he breaks a dagger in front of Horus and then turns and leaves. Horus allows them to leave, and I feel like this was some kind of indication to Horus, like, we quit this, as a official, we quit this whole, like, against the Emperor thing as a official course of action. It seemed to be telling Horus that, although it's not really read into super deeply, so not entirely sure what happens. And in the latest book, The Echoes of Eternity, during Siege of Terra, it does mention Alpha Legion soldiers being a part of the forces attacking, so somewhere at least there. And then there is one specific Alpha Legion soldier that could be Omegon that is currently with John Grammaticus and Old Person and a few other people trying to make their way to see the Emperor and Horus for the final showdown. But that's still speculation. But the Legionnaire does say hello to John, seemingly having recognized him in the past. So after the siege, just like all the other legions, the Alpha Legion retreats, but they do not go into the Eye of Terror. They actually move off into the Galactic East and continue just doing their Alpha Legion stuff, where they're constantly causing plots and toppling things, just continuing to do what they do. And this is going to go a little bit longer just because there's a lot more for me to say on them, and it's a fitting for like being the last of these I'm doing anyway. So sit back a little bit longer. I'm not going to take up too much longer time on this, but I do want to give them their due, which I think is important. So the Alpha Legion draws the ire of Robout Guilliman, both during the Crusade and during the Scouring period. Guilliman tries to chase down where he thinks Alpharius is going to be, which is probably Omegon at this point, and he is able to corner him and get him in a fight and supposedly kill who he believes to be Alpharius. The rest of the Alpha Legionnaires there don't react at all to this death, so it's either wasn't Omegon, or if Omegon was killed here, the Alpha Legion is trained to, be very very compartmentalized. So they just attacked like normal, really hurting the retreat of the Ultramarines, who thought that maybe they would break at the shock of their Primarch being killed. So again, that's left up to speculation. And so here's my major speculation with the Alpha Legion between that period to the modern 40k era. A lot of people see them as just a Chaos Legion in the modern times because there are Chaos Warbands of Alpha Legionnaires. Without a doubt there is. However, as mentioned in the Raven Guard episode, the Alpha Legion did steal some very powerful technology that allowed you to create Space Marines at a rapid pace, and Space Marines that were basically Primaris Space Marines before Primaris were an official thing. Proto-Primaris, if you will. And it is my speculation, personal belief, that the Alpha Legion is the most populous legion still operating and in existence in the 40k era. And since they did not retreat into the Eye of Terror, I believe a large portion of them are untainted and still secret loyalists, fighting their Chaos brethren, any Alpha Legionnaires that fell to Chaos, because even loyalist chapters have fallen to Chaos, from chapters that were loyal during the Great Crusade and Post-heresy. Ultramarine successors have fallen to Chaos. Some Imperial Fists have. So just because some of the Alpha Legion is Chaos doesn't mean the entire thing is. And I believe the best way to depict the Alpha Legion is as a Ouroboros, which is like It's a serpent eating its own tail. I believe they are constantly fighting a shadow war against themselves, which would be very appropriate for this legion of shadows and secrecy, for them to be in a constant to and fro battle that no one else is privy to, because they don't want anyone to be privy to it. That'd be very fitting for them. And then the ones that are the most far gone into insanity and chaos would be the most visible ones. That's my personal speculation for this legion. And I believe Omegon is still out there. I don't think Robout found him there. It was probably a legionnaire pretending to be Omegon or Alpharius. And, you know, the web is woven very craftily with them. Rogaldorn was I think he was missing by this point, so, you know, he wasn't there to see through Alpharius's disguise, and it's not known if any of the other Primarchs could see through them like he could. So anyway, so that's a bit about the Alpha Legion and Alpharius Omegon. It went a little bit longer, but I had more to say about them. They are a very fascinating, contradictory legion and Primarch, twin Primarchs to talk about. And so that's going to be about it for this series. I will do one right after this one about the two missing legions and their Primarchs, just to do some speculation, because it's fun for those legions and Primarchs, but there's nothing substantive about them. So as always, bring your light into the dark places. Please like and subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next episode. Please leave your comments for ideas for future series you'd like me to do an overview on or deep dive in any of the lore bits. And thank you so much for your support so far. It means a lot and spurs me on to create more of these. Thank you and have a great day or night wherever you are. Talk to you soon.